The billionaire was used to seeing the world bow to his power, but nothing could have prepared him for what he saw that morning. As he walked quietly through the sprawling cemetery, his mind heavy with memories of his son, he noticed two small figures kneeling by the grave. Twin girls, their faces streaked with tears, were praying with a sincerity that made the air around them feel almost sacred. Curiosity mixed with a strange sense of dread, he stepped closer, careful not to startle them. Who were these children, and why were they here, at his son's grave? Speaking words he couldn't understand but somehow felt deep in his chest. Every detail caught his attention, the way their hands clasped tightly, the soft whispers carried by the wind, and the innocence etched into their eyes. Something about them was hauntingly familiar, yet impossible to place. He had seen grief before, but this was different. This wasn't just sorrow. It was a silent message, a connection that seemed meant for him alone. As the billionaire approached, his heart began to pound, and a cold realization swept over him. These twins were not ordinary children, and their reason for being here was something he could never have anticipated. The secret they carried, the story behind their prayers, had the power to shatter his carefully controlled world. One moment would change everything he thought he knew about life, loss, and fate itself. And then, as they looked up at him with eyes that seemed to pierce straight into his soul, he felt the ground beneath him shift, and he knew that his life was about to unravel in ways he could never imagine. The billionaire took a slow step back, trying to steady his racing heart. The twins didn't flinch. They continued their prayer, their voices soft but filled with a haunting clarity that seemed impossible for children so young. His mind raced as memories of his son flooded in laughter, the way he ran through the garden, the dreams he had left behind. And suddenly, a thought struck him like lightning. What if these girls were connected to his son in ways he couldn't yet understand? He tried to remember if he had ever seen them before, but nothing came to mind. Their faces, though small and innocent, held an intensity that was unnerving, almost otherworldly. Something about them suggested they knew secrets, truths that were buried deep, even beyond his own knowledge. He realized that this wasn't a random visit, someone had led them here, or maybe fate itself. As he watched, he noticed the small charm they held between their hands, a delicate pendant engraved with his family's crest. His hands trembled as he stepped closer, trying to mask the fear building inside him. Questions swirled in his mind. Who were these twins? Why did they know of the pendant? And most importantly, what message were they trying to deliver? The twins finally looked up, and their eyes locked with his. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Their gaze wasn't just pleading, it was demanding, insisting that he understand something urgent. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Deep down, he sensed that what they were about to reveal would change everything he thought he knew about his son, his family, and himself. The air felt heavier, charged with an invisible tension, as the secret waited to be unveiled. The billionaire took a hesitant seat on the cold stone bench nearby. Unable to tear his eyes away from the twins, he noticed how their small hands clutched each other tightly, as if they drew strength from one another. There was a quiet confidence in their sorrow, a maturity far beyond their years, and it unnerved him. He realized he was no longer just observing. They were waiting for him to respond, to acknowledge something he didn't yet understand. In that moment, his mind drifted back to the last days of his son's life. The hospital visits, the sleepless nights, the arguments with doctors that now seemed so insignificant. He had buried himself in business, thinking he could control every outcome, but these twins reminded him that some truths were beyond control. He wondered if their presence was punishment, a warning, or perhaps a revelation he wasn't ready to face. Meanwhile, across town, a woman watched from a distance, her eyes hidden beneath a wide hat. She was the twins' guardian, the one who had brought them here, and she knew the billionaire's past in ways he did not. She had her own reasons for keeping certain details hidden, motives tangled in debt, loyalty, and secrets that threatened to upend powerful lives. The twins whispered something he couldn't catch, a name that resonated deep in his memory but refused to fully surface. He felt a surge of panic. Was this about his son's friends, enemies, or someone entirely unexpected? The pendant glimmered in the weak sunlight, a symbol of a family legacy he thought he understood, yet now seemed far more complicated. Every instinct told him to demand answers, but fear held him back. He sensed the truth was both urgent and dangerous, layered in mysteries that could unravel everything he had built. The cemetery was silent, but tension hung thick, like the calm before a storm, and he realized that nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The billionaire's chest tightened as the twins stood slowly, their small figures casting long shadows over the grave. They moved in perfect unison, as if rehearsed, their eyes locked on him with a seriousness that made his pulse spike. Each step they took seemed to echo in the quiet cemetery, and he realized that this moment had been inevitable. Whatever secret they carried, it was about to demand his full attention. He could feel the weight of years pressing down on him, the guilt, the regrets, the unanswered questions about his son. The twins' whispers grew louder, their voices trembling yet firm, and he strained to catch the words. The pendant caught the sunlight again, shimmering like a warning. He noticed for the first time that the engraving wasn't just a family crest, it contained initials he recognized, once tied to someone he thought he had lost forever. Behind the trees, The woman who had brought the girls observed silently, her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. She had hoped to prepare the billionaire, but now she could see the raw shock in his eyes. She knew the revelations would shake him to his core, yet the truth had no patience. Every secret she had kept, every hidden connection between the twins and his son, was poised to explode in front of him. The twins finally spoke together, their words forming a single sentence that made him stagger back. His knees threatened to buckle as fragments of memories and half-forgotten warnings collided in his mind. There was no turning back. Now the story that had remained buried for so long was clawing its way to the surface, demanding acknowledgement, and the billionaire realized he might not be ready for what came next. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, yet he was rooted in place, knowing that the answers the twins carried were inescapable. The tension was unbearable, the air charged with secrets that could topple everything he had built, and the world around him seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment the truth would finally break free. The billionaire blinked rapidly, trying to steady his thoughts, but the words the twins had spoken refused to settle. Then, just as he was about to step closer, a voice broke the silence, a voice he hadn't expected. From behind the towering gravestones, a man emerged, tall and composed, yet there was an unmistakable intensity in his eyes. The billionaire's heart skipped a beat as recognition struck it with someone from his past, someone he had believed long gone, someone tied to the darkest chapter of his son's life. The twins turned toward the man, their expressions shifting from solemnity to something almost urgent, pleading. They gestured toward the pendant again, and he noticed how their small hands shook, as if signaling a warning. The man spoke, his tone calm but edged with danger. "You need to understand the truth before it's too late." The words sent a chill down the billionaire's spine. Every instinct screamed that this revelation would change everything he thought he knew about his son, his family, and even himself. Suddenly, a memory flashed in his mind, a secret meeting, a hidden envelope, a choice he had made and buried. Could this man be connected to the twins, or worse, to the reason his son had died? The stakes escalated with every heartbeat. The cemetery, once quiet and solemn, now felt suffocating, as if the air itself carried the weight of secrets too long concealed. The twins' eyes locked with his again, silently urging him to listen, while the stranger stepped closer. And he realized that uncovering this truth could either destroy him or set everything right. But one thing was certain, nothing in his life would ever be the same after this encounter, and the tension around his son's grave had reached a breaking point. The billionaire felt his knees weaken as the man stepped fully into the sunlight, revealing a face he had never expected to see, his son's best friend, the one he had thought had disappeared years ago. The twins ran forward, their small hands gripping the man's arms, and suddenly everything clicked. The pendant, the prayers, the whispered names, it was all connected. The man knelt by the grave, his voice breaking as he explained the truth. The twins were his son's secret friends, children he had promised to protect after a hidden tragedy that the billionaire had never known about. The revelation hit him like a tidal wave. His son had feared for these girls, had entrusted them to this man before his untimely death, and all this time, the billionaire had been blind to the very family his son had tried to save. Tears blurred his vision as he realized the weight of his own absence, the nights he had spent consumed by business will,